This is Good Morning San Diego.
All right, new year means new real estate laws, and here to break down the new laws, licensed California real estate broker Mark Powell. Mark, we have this conversation every year.
Yes.
So let's do it again, because there are things that people need to know.
Yes. So there's some new laws that are coming in 2025. One of the big laws is now buyers will have to have a signed agreement with their agents, and this agreement is going to determine what the buyer is going to pay their agent. So it's no longer the seller paying the agent, it's the buyer paying their own agent, and it's codified in law. So they have to have a contract, similar to the way a person who's selling their house, it's a contract with the seller. Same thing, and the buyer now is on the hook for that, and they
isn't that going to make it even harder to buy a home?
Oh yeah, it's going to make it a lot harder because you're scraping up money for a deposit. Now you have to pay your agent on top of it. It could be $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. They can ask the seller to pay, but the seller has no obligation to pay. Another law that's interesting is that when you rent a house, the landlord now is required to take photos before and after. So when they come up to the end of the lease or the end of the rental agreement, they're going to have to show the damages, because sometimes they try and take money out of their security deposit, and they're saying, wait a minute, there was a hole in a wall when I moved in. Well, no. So now they're required by law to take photos, before and after photos.
That seems very logical.
Very logical. Yes. One that's very interesting, you always hear about domestic violence. So let's say there's a domestic violence dispute, police are called, maybe there's some type of restraining order, and the person living in the house, who's the victim, wants to change the locks, but they don't have the money to change the locks. Well, landlords are now required to change the locks within 24 hours of being notified of this domestic violence incident, but they have to have documentation. They can't just say, hey, I'm in an argument with my boyfriend or girlfriend, and if they don't change the locks, the tenant, the renter, can change the locks, and the landlord now is required to pay. So they have to pay for it. And in some places, let's say it's a house, there may be 4, 5, 6 locks that need to be changed. That could cost hundreds of dollars to do that. That's law is now codifies that the landlord has to pay for that. And also, this is a very intriguing one. In 2015, in Berkeley, California, there were a bunch of college students, exactly 13 of them, they were partying on a balcony. And that balcony was compromised because it was made out of wood and was dry rotted. It collapsed. 6 of the kids sadly died. 7 of them were seriously injured. So now condo complexes are required to do balcony inspections. That's if the balconies are made out of wood, and they have to be above 6 feet. So in case they fall, they don't want them to get hurt. Well, they said last year, they go, okay, all the balconies have to be inspected, but there just wasn't enough civil engineers and architects to do it, or structural engineers and architects. So they extended that for a year, and they added civil engineers to do the inspections, because, I mean, look around San Diego, there's thousands of balconies. So that's another law, that they're going to have to get all these balconies inspected by 2026, by the end of 2026.
That could be very costly for the landlord.
Oh, extremely. Can you imagine? Well, they're going to go in there. Of course, there's dry rot. Some of these buildings are really old, so they're going to have to replace them. But it doesn't apply to concrete balconies. Right. Because termites don't eat concrete. At least the ones that I know of, they're not eating concrete. Those are some really important laws that people should know about.
Okay.
One other one is, if a person is given an unlawful detainer, that's they're going to be evicted. They used to have a 3-day quitter pay, so you had 3 days to get all organized. Well, they said that's not enough time. We're going to give you 5 days, and we're not going to include Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays. Well, now it's 10 days. It gives the people enough time to get some legal counsel, because they whip those things out. Hey, you're being evicted. You're being, and when you get this notice, let's say you lost your job and you don't have enough money to pay your rent, you're going to get this notice right away. So at least you have time to hire legal counsel. So you have 10 days, not including Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays. Those are some new things on the horizon.
Mark Powell, useful information as always. We appreciate you coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks.